Good morning to everyone and welcome to Poet Chancellor. I am Kyle Gilley, Senior Vice President of External Affairs at Poet here in Sioux Falls. We're excited to have everyone here this morning. Excited that our distinguished guests have joined us. Mr. Perdue, welcome. And we are very excited to be here celebrating year-round E-15, which is the purpose of this conversation. And we've got a distinguished group of folks here that can walk you through their experiences with it and how they think it's going to impact their operations moving forward. Before we go into formal remarks, why don't we go around the table and folks introduce themselves. Don, would you kick us off?
Sure will. I'm Don Nolan. It says Nelson, but my name is Don Nolan. I'm the President and CEO of Rivers Edge Bank, Parker, Marion, Bridgewater, Howard, Canova, South Dakota.
Good morning, I'm Lisa Richardson. I'm with South Dakota Corn, and we so welcome you to an ethanol plant. We're really glad to have you.
Darren Enan, board chair here at Poet Chancellor, farm just outside of town, and been on the board here for 18 years. Thanks for coming.
Jim Sire, CEO of Glacier Lakes Energy, way up north, Watertown and west of Aberdeen. Welcome to South Dakota.
Good morning, I'm Kenny Mueller. I'm also on staff with South Dakota Corn, and welcome.
Morning, Keith Elverson. I farm north of here about 45 miles, corn and soybean farmer, and past president of South Dakota Corn.
Rob Walther, I'm Vice President of Federal Affairs at Poet. I get to interact with your staff on a regular basis, and just here to say thank you to all three of you for all the work that went into this. This is a tremendous benefit industry. Thank you.
I'm Dean Frederickson. I'm the General Manager here at Chancellor. I know all my investors and employees thank you too for all your work on E-15 and all of you. Thank you very much.
My name is Brion Jennings. I'm with the American Coalition for Ethanol. I want to offer my thank you to all of you as well. We've got some more work to do to get the rule to the finish line, but with your leadership, we're in a very good position, so thank you.
Ryan Welsh, on behalf of Growth Energy, I really want to express our thanks for your hard work in 15. And also Mr. Secretary for speaking at a biofuel summit last month. Really got the troops fired up.
Scott Stahl, a third-generation farmer from Emory, South Dakota, about 45 miles west of here. And without ethanol, I would not be farming. The investment that it's made in rural America is unbelievable. What it's done for people in my generation, thanks to all three of you.
John Averos, Hudson, South Dakota. Our family owns a feedlot. We feed cattle, and the co-product feeds is just absolutely essential to make our feed yard vital in today's competitive global market. And the more demand, the more feed, the better it all works.
Good morning, Dusty Odekoven, Interim Ag Secretary, and welcome, Mr. Secretary. Thanks for coming to South Dakota. Thanks for everything you do.
And Mr. Secretary, if I could, our founder, chairman, and CEO, Jeff Brion, was able to join us this morning. I think Jeff has a few opening remarks before we send it around.
Absolutely. I'd also like to welcome you to Poet, our refining chancellor, one of the greenest ethanol plants in America. We talked about that coming down the stairs. But just really excited to have you here. Wow, year-round E-15. 9 years ago, we wrote the green job, the E-15 waiver at the Poet headquarters, just a few miles from here. And I did not think it would be 9 years later that we'd be getting it year-round, but it's a fantastic day, and we're excited about the announcement. And it's a great time for South Dakota ethanol producers. It's a great time for America's farmers, and even farmers around the world who will be impacted by this as well. And for consumers that really need cleaner air in our cities. You know, I don't know the last time you've been to Los Angeles or some of our other major cities and looked at the smog. It's hard to see the buildings some days, and we can help with that. And we can take surplus ag commodities and surplus starch and surplus cellulose from the Midwest, and we can convert it into biofuels that can go out and clean up those cities, and it's a very exciting thing. 2 billion bushels of new demand, huge for America's farmers. 2 billion bushels will bring down worldwide surpluses, raise prices to sustainable levels where they're not today. It'll impact the budget of every state in the Midwest. It's going to have a big impact on all the budgets and GDPs of our states. So it's just a fantastic day. As we continue to increase yields in commodities, we have to continue to look at biofuels to grow. We're going to need to, E-15 is a great start. At some point in the future, we're going to have to move it some more. We're good at producing commodities on this planet. Agriculture is virtually untapped worldwide, and I'd love to talk to you about that. There's a lot of opportunity out there in agriculture, and we see that in Africa and India and all kinds of places, China. So again, thank you to all of you. Thank you to the Trump administration. Without them, we would not be here. Nobody would be here. Without all three of you, we would not be here. So really, really excited to have all of you here today for this great announcement. And to talk some more about how we get this over the finish line. So with that, I would introduce Senator Rounds. Senator Rounds and I go back, I added up, looking at this up online to remember when he got in legislature, but I believe we met 26 years ago. So we have been working together on biofuels for 26 years. Senator Rounds has been a fantastic supporter in the Senate in South Dakota, then as governor, and now as a senator. So really valuable person in Michigan, and really happy to introduce you this morning.
Thanks, Jeff. Jeff is one of these hands-on guys. He gets it. He understands the chemistry behind it. He has from day one, and that's what's made this successful for them. For everybody here, Sonny Perdue, who's governor in Georgia, he is hands-on production ag oriented. Some people talk about ag. Sonny talks it from the inside out. He gets it. He understands you got to make a profit. That's what he's done in real life. He's been involved in production ag basically his entire life. So he understands it. You don't have to explain the vernacular to him. He gets it. And I've always enjoyed working with Sonny. He gets things done. He wants results, which is what we want up here. E-15 is what he's here to talk about. It's what we want to talk about today because we've got to get that nationwide. If we can introduce E-15 nationwide, that allows the rest of the country to see just how good this product is. And it allows them to use that machinery, the pumps, year-round, which has been one of the biggest stumbling blocks we've gotten in order to get ethanol to the consumers that really would like to try it and see just how good it really is. So, Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here. We look forward to your comments, and we just really appreciate you taking the time to come on out here and to see this and to help us get this through to the finish line. We don't have a lot of work to do yet, but we're glad you're on our side. Thank you, sir.
Well, I'll talk now, if that's okay, Mr. Secretary. Sure. Listen, thank you all for coming today. This is really important. And I want to thank the Secretary for coming to South Dakota, too. This is something that he and I have been talking about for quite some time, since the President announced during his campaign for President that he supported ethanol. We were working to make sure that he followed through on that, and I was very grateful to see the announcement in earlier October that he was going to make sure that we had E-15 available year-round, and that's a big deal for all of us across the state. If you're involved in agriculture, even livestock operations, John, I was thankful for your comments, because we need the side products, the bioproducts, the PDGs to operate and to grow our livestock operations in the state as well. So this is a win-win, not just for our state, but also for the country and really our renewable energy supply. So Sonny's been a real advocate for us in this fight, and he's been his background in agriculture, but also as a veterinarian in the grain handling business, and then just serving as governor. He understands economics. He understands the sustainability this brings to rural America and what it does for our communities. And I've known him for many, many years. I consider him a friend. We hunted together before we did anything else together, probably years ago. Actually, you rode in my combine with me, probably close to 20 years ago, I suppose. But so I'm very grateful he's our Secretary of Agriculture and that he believes in ethanol in the future and what it means to this country as well. I'm glad he would come and have this conversation with all of you.
Thank you, Christy and Mike. Thank you. We enjoyed serving as governors together and to follow your career in the United States Senate. We're very glad that you're there. Christy, I was going to remind folks that I just didn't hear about E-15 from Christy. You know, when President Trump started talking about it, she was loud and proud in 2006, I think it was, in her family's farm. The small world story there is that her sister married the son of one of my friends from our hometown, and Wesley Grantham is the son of a good friend of mine, and we were there visiting and enjoying your great outdoor sports in South Dakota that you're famous for. And you might imagine, this was even before Christy got to the legislature, but she was quite active in politics at that point, followed what was going on, very active in the agriculture's portion of that. So I was not surprised when I read later where she had offered herself for political office and then even moving up to the United States Congress. So we're happy to be here to, for all of you and to really talk about this issue of ethanol, E-15, and how we can make the promises come true. I do appreciate President Trump, and this is something really that I thought would happen a lot earlier because I knew that's what he wanted to do, but had a few dust-ups with the petroleum industry, and at the end of the day, he did what he usually does. That's what he wanted to do in that way. So we're thankful for that. I think it is another example of promises made, promises kept of this administration. But Mike, I know you will remember as governor, I know that I never felt as connected from the state to the federal government as we do today with your state leaders there. And you've got a good legacy of governors here, and that's why I think Christie, having been there, seeing that, why it will continue in South Dakota, the relationships. I mean, government business, ethanol business, and all Jeff runs on people relationships, and that's what I told our staff this morning, Christie, I'm not sure I haven't regretted the day I gave you my personal cell phone number.
I'm sorry. And I apologize.
That's okay. She takes advantage of it. No, don't apologize. That's just really advocating for the people. So she lets me know about the issues that are important to South Dakota, and that's quite all right, going back to the relationship we had. But I'd love to have a discussion. You all talked about making sure it happens. I am absolutely convinced that Acting Administrator Wheeler wants to make this happen in time for next year, not to be in time for the driving time, May there. These folks will tell you that our setup of the federal rulemaking is rather, you would never like it in the private sector. I'm a sooner rather than later guy in there, and these things that take months and weeks and months, it shouldn't take but a few weeks, is very frustrating, but I'm convinced he will get it done. He's committed to get it done. I heard him say personally the other day that he feels very confident that any litigation against this decision will be, his decision will be sustained. President Trump's decision will be sustained in that, and they will fight for that. So we're going to help them as they issue the rule, and one of the things that we'll be continuing to talk to him about, obviously, is the small refinery waivers. You know, in politics today, it looks like the meter never stops in the middle. You know, we had taken a hardship clause in there and really hadn't issued any there. The courts overturned that and said you've got to do it. And then we went all the way back over here and just opened up the gate where everything flooded through. And now we got to figure out what's the right balance in that. And that's where I think Administrator Wheeler is looking for the right balance of what really is the definition of a hardship and how we can confine that and make it more transparent. He's committed to do several things of real-time type transparency, not only in that waiver issue, but also in the RIN market, that I think will help people who try to use this market in a manipulative way to be able to do just like we do in the commodity market, open, transparent, and know where people are, where people's positions are. Probably do some things that similar to what we do in the grain markets, in that you've got a certain portion that can be done by speculators for liquidity, and most of it has to be done by commercials that use the markets there. So those are the things that we're looking at to make the market work and make the E-15 work. Now it's up to you all, Boyd and Jeff and others, to really grow this business out, just like the E-10, just to grow it out, and with the certainty, once these rules are finalized, with the certainty that retailers and sellers and stations can utilize this equipment on a year-round basis. I mean, you would not have invested in this plant if you could only use it 9 months out of the year, and that's reasonable. But I think, again, as people understand what E-15 is all about, I think we'll see it spread. We do want to make it ubiquitous across the country. Big corn demand and growth. I do look forward to hearing about some other things and ideas you have from what agriculture can contribute overall in the economy in new and different ways. There's a lot of technology out there now. But these are important things that we need to do to make sure we do it well, and make sure that we push it all the way out. I think the other advantage we'll have right now, with petroleum prices rising and corn prices where they've been, we ought to see a price delta, and we're able to blend more ethanol there as well. And I think consumers are going to respond to that. And I think once they figure out and they get over all this TV ads about, hurt your engine and that kind of thing, then I think people are going to be fine. It'll be accepted and as a normal part. And we'll see E-15 pumps in Georgia just like you do out here. So I'm happy to be here. I'm kind of a conversational kind of guy, and rather than talking, I just love to respond to questions or comments or whatever that you all may have or concerns. One of the things we do is coming out here and listening. This is, I think, 46 states since May of last year. So we like to hear from real people who are doing real work in agriculture, of what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, where we need to have mid-course corrections. So I'm open to any ideas and suggestions and comments that you may have this morning. So I appreciate the rounds, and I appreciate Christy inviting me out here today to hear from you and to spend some time back in South Dakota.
Mr. Secretary, if I may just add to those comments, the last time you and I met together, we were talking about a 10-cent RIN cap that Senator Cruz was advocating for in exchange for getting RVP. And we have come an enormously long way, and it's been a beneficial outcome, and it's largely thanks to your advocacy. You've been our strongest champion in the administration, and we appreciate that. The small refinery exemptions that you raised are absolutely posing problems. We're at that 10-cent RIN cap right now without the legislation that Cruz wanted. The market itself, the small refinery exemptions have really collapsed the price of those RINs. But what I want to follow up with you on is the timing of getting this rule done. Senator Grassley expressed some concerns earlier this week that already EPA bureaucrats are slow-walking the rulemaking process. EPA suggests to us that they can get the rule out for public comment February 1st and have it done in time for the 2019 driving season, May 31st. That would be a land speed record for EPA. They don't do anything in 4 months. Most EPA rulemakings take well over a year. The RFS rulemakings take 5 or 6 months. So I guess what I would ask of you, and certainly of our congressional delegation, is we need to continue to press the White House to get EPA to speed this rulemaking up so this gets done in time for the 2019 driving season. That's indeed what the President promised.
I understand the anxiety, but I was in the room where President Trump expressed his expectations. And just like the day I was sworn in, he had an executive order. None of us take it as executive suggestions. So I think, again, we will continue to do that. We continue to have conversation with Wheeler. I'm convinced he wants to get this done because he's committed to do that, and that's what the President, as these folks well know, sometimes the leader has to get what he inspects, not what he expects, and we'll continue to do that as far as what the progress is, where we are. So I hear you. I understand there's an anxiety. I'm frustrated every time we go to rulemaking to USDA about all the steps we have to do and all the things that have to happen, and the back and forth in the Office of Manager and Budget, and we're not in control of that timeline. I sent a letter yesterday over another issue, OMB, they call it OIR, over all these rules, and we sent it back because they keep it. They've got a statutory time limit, but they keep it as long as they want, and that's the real key as far as getting the passbacks. I believe Wheeler and the EPA are committed to getting it done. We've got to make sure that OMB and the rest of the federal government and these folks can help on that as well to make sure that happens.
Secretary, if I can piggyback off that, we are also concerned about the timing. Seeing the proposed rule now is coming out in February, it was a concern. But I'd like to just make the comment that the most important thing is to get it right and to make sure that it's legally defensible. And we are presenting ideas over to EPA. I know that Senator Rounds and Representative Nome are making sure that that is carried into the White House and into EPA as well. They've been tremendous champions throughout this fight. At the growth conference that Ryan referenced, I was the first one to take the mic and ask you a question about what imminent meant on the announcement. You just said promises made, promises kept. You were true to your word. We take the president at his word that it's going to be done in time for the summer driving season. We just want to make sure that any more, to use your term, oil dust-ups, don't come between us and a rule that is legally defensible. We have a path forward that we think our attorneys, who granted they get billed by the hour, but they I think want to see us be successful, they think they have a path forward that will get us. It's called substantially similar or sub-sim. Sub-sim needs to be the path chosen by EPA to get us to the promised land. And so we would just ask you, in your role as, helping pave this path for us, and just your oversight role to make sure this process goes smoothly, help us keep it on track. We can get this thing through. The last thing we want is to get killed in the courts and have to keep coming back to this thing over and over again.
Well, that's a very valid point, and it's an important point, because we all remember celebrating last year the WOTUS rule, and then the courts enjoining that. So it really is important we get it done by driving season next year, but just as important we get it done right, legally defensible in that way. And I think that's, Administrator Wheeler is a very methodical kind of guy, low key, but I think that's absolutely his objective, is to make sure. I heard him tell the press the other day, he absolutely believes, there's no doubt, that this is within the statutory purview and authority of EPA, and he plans to write the rule in a way that is absolutely legally defensible. So
thank you, sir.
I think that's a good point.
Mr. Secretary, if I could add, excuse me, my voice, I've got a bit of a cold, but as a fourth-generation farmer, our son just came back from the military and wants to find a place in the farm. It's important, and we appreciate E-15 more than ever. Production right now is below, cost of production is below, break even. And so what E-15 means for rural America is profitability back in agriculture. As an ag sector, we survived the last recession because of ethanol and E10. I mean, without this plant here, just imagine what the price of our grain would be in this area. And so E-15 going forward gives us a chance to become profitable again. We've got grain in our bins from 2 years ago, so we have a lot of grain on hand, just because we've been able to grow it, and we've proven we can grow it. And so we just need a new market, and E-15 will do that. E10 was great, we're just ready to go to the next plateau for the sake of rural American agriculture. It's very important for us, and we thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. Obviously, Jeff knows, and people in the industry, Term Growth Energy knows, it's going to take a good marketing campaign of moving the markets. People don't change driving habits and purchasing habits very easily, so we've got to show them, and that you've got a good core here where E-15 are already known, and we just need to move on out. When you get the access, that's been the problem before. Nobody really wanted to invest in tanks or pumps because of the access. I haven't looked at this specifically, Christie and Mike, but I know that Secretary Vilsack did something earlier about helping some investment there. I don't know if that's something else USDA can do as well in this go around.
Especially partnering with states, maybe to make sure those pumps are there. The states, some of the states have had some programs to allow participation in putting in pumps. That's a great partnership to have.
Definitely, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
And that was that initiative then was matched by the industry, brought a lot of money to the table as well. We were able to put a lot of pumps in the ground, and it's really started the ball rolling. It took 35 years to blanket the country in E10. We would like to do E15 in less than 10. And so it's going to take something like that, something to light the fuse, so to speak. And that's what we've been trying to do.
So ethanol, as you can see, is a big deal in South Dakota. Corn's the largest commodity. We use about 400 million bushels for ethanol production. We produce about 800 million. Jeff, you're our largest buyer of corn, and he grew this industry from a very small entity to, in this state now, we produce over 1 billion gallons. We have a new ethanol plant in Oneida coming on, and we think there's more potential and more opportunity for these guys around the room. So we sincerely thank you that we did E15, and the piece that everyone's forgetting is this isn't a mandate. They want to compete head-to-head with oil, and they can do it with less dollars. It's 2 to 7 cents at the pump less, so the American consumer wins as well. And that's huge. So it's an opportunity The efficiencies, these guys are growing more with less. They're changing what they're doing, and the opportunity, they just want the opportunity to compete.
I guess I'll just make a pitch again for the infrastructure secretary. Growth Energy has done some tremendous things with industry contributions, and some of the matching funds have come previously. I don't want the very smallest of communities to get left behind. Sometimes it's not a Casey's that's out there or some other store. It's just a little convenience store without a brand on it. And so, I would make that pitch that let's make sure that some of those dollars, if they're available, get into those communities. Because a lot of times we're sitting out right in the middle of corn country. Everybody is on board with ethanol, and yet the highest blend they can get is E-10. And there's not a name brand on Main Street. It's just, the Smith's Corner Store or something like that. And so if there's some way to find some extra dollars and financial assistance for those areas, certainly fits the term rural development. So, and many times that's the gathering place. It's a coffee shop, it's a gas station, and the grocery store all wrapped in one in these small communities. So, again, appreciate the assistance that the agency has set before, and hopefully we can do that again.
Mr. Secretary, appreciate your efforts on E-15, Senator Rounds and Congressman Milne. We appreciate all the effort that you've had in our working relationship on that. From a farm perspective, just to add on to what Darren had talked about, the additional demand potential that we have with E-15 is absolutely critical for the profitability that we have. Lisa had talked about over half the corn that we produce here in South Dakota goes to ethanol production, and so having this additional demand is needed now in the tough economic conditions around the farm country. And so that's where, going back to the rulemaking timeline, anything that the three of you can do to continue to keep the pressure on. It's an extremely positive statement that you've had with Administrator Wheeler that he's committed to moving it forward, but we can't let the foot off the gas on that because we need that additional demand. And the sooner that if we miss next year's drive time, that delays the timeline that Jeff laid out, in hopes for seeing this nationwide and getting those E-15 pumps in Georgia, down the road. And in order to build that demand, we need that market signal. And so, if there's any way that you can continue to keep that pressure on, we'd certainly be appreciated.
Well, you all have been very kind in your compliments. I tell people I'm kind of like the rookie that recovered the fumble in the end zone. These guys got it across the goal line. And there's some other couple of people in our shop that also very familiar with this, and them. That's Brooke Appleton and Steve Sinsky, our deputy, that were very instrumental in continuing to pursue this, and as well, and from a technical aspect, knowing more than I did about the ethanol issue in that regard. So it's a lot of things go to them in that. With corn growers, national corn growers, I guess before we start away.
I'd like to interrupt. Steve was an SDSU grad at South Dakota State. Yeah.
Say that again.
Steve was an SDSU grad at South Dakota State.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Jackrabbits.
That's right.
Well, Mr. Secretary, I know we have some team members out there making ethanol that are excited to have the opportunity to meet you and the senator and the representative. So I know Dean and the team would like to show you around a little bit, but just to close up from Poet's perspective, again, thank you for being such a strong advocate for us in the administration. We really appreciate it. You've gone above and beyond, and we know you're going to have to do it again to get this thing done by the driving season next summer. So thank you for that. And Senator Rounds, we certainly appreciate your reaching out to us and giving us an opportunity to host this morning. Pleasure working with your staff to get that done, so thank you. And Representative Nell, we fully appreciate you utilizing that personal cell number. And the many times you and the senators went out and advocated directly with the president here on E-15, so thank you for that.
It's a representative government, it works. It's like the red line of South Dakota here.
But I will tell you, I've sat in the cabinet room with the president talking about ethanol, with Sonny sitting next to me, and he was supportive of ethanol in that room for you on your behalf as well. And I think that's important for you to know, that he, no matter where we are, no matter how private or how public the setting is, he believes in farmers, he believes in their ability to feed the world, and he believes in our ability to fuel the world too. So we've got a friend, and we appreciate it.
I believe the president referred to that as arm twisting
Yes.
when he was here in September.
You might
That the
bet.
three of you plus Senator Thune had twisted his arm recently on E-15. So thank you for that.
Can we, excuse me, can the press have a few questions of the Secretary?
We're going to do it afterwards.
Okay.